The iPad is one of my favorite devices ever. Whether it's the standard iPad, the iPad Pro, or even the upcoming iPad Air 4, these things are super powerful and versatile in what they can do. They can do so many things just on their own, but beyond what the iPad can do all by itself, by adding just a few accessories, you can completely change and enhance what you can do with iPad. So today, I wanted to show you my favorite accessories for my iPad Pro. Hey, I'm Jerry, and I use the crap out of my iPad Pro, and one of the biggest reasons for that is the iPad Magic Keyboard. As we all know, the iPad Magic Keyboard was released earlier this year and includes this crazy double hinge floating iPad design. The iPad just attaches with magnets and just kind of hangs over the keyboard, and it's very odd and also cool. The keyboard itself is the same redesigned Magic Keyboard that Apple's been putting on all of their devices over the last year or so. The keys feel really good to me, they have a decent amount of travel, they don't sound too loud, and they're backlit. On the bottom of this case, you have a trackpad, which is very much like other Apple trackpads. It's glass, it's multi-touch, and you can click it anywhere. The trackpad is what really kind of transforms the iPad into a real laptop replacement. With the addition of mouse support in iOS 13.4, the iPad has become more of a productivity tool, being able to easily edit text or be able to move around the screen with a tool other than your finger. The USB port on the bottom back side is really handy for charging the device from the case through to the iPad. This allows for the USB port on the side of the iPad to still be available for other accessories that we'll get to later. If you'd like to see more of my opinions on the iPad Magic Keyboard, I made a video after using it for 6 weeks. If you're interested in that, check out the video below. You may have noticed that I have a skin on my iPad Magic Keyboard. This is a Soapy Guard skin, the 3M Matrix version. This skin is awesome because the iPad Magic Keyboard by itself has this external rubbery material that just picks up dirt and grime and finger oils no matter what you do. You can try using rubbing alcohol or dish soap to try and get the stains out, and it works for a while, but eventually they just kind of stick around. So the next best option was recommended in the comments on one of my videos, and that's this Soapy Guard skin. The skin itself is not that difficult to apply. You just take your time, go slowly, and make sure everything's lined up correctly. What is nice about this Soapy Guard skin is that it gives you pieces for the exterior top and bottom, but also on the inside, around the palm rest and above the keyboard. Having a skin on the iPad makes the iPad Magic Keyboard feel more durable and more rugged. I no longer have to worry about what's on a table or making sure I wipe it off or being more aware of where I set it down. I can just set it down, open it up, and use it. Next up, the Apple Pencil. Although I'm not a huge Apple Pencil user, I do enjoy playing with it from time to time. And now with iPadOS 14 and the new Scribble feature, you can basically write inside any text field on the iPad and have it converted to text. You can go from a note-taking app or a drawing app to Safari and write in a URL without needing to put the pencil down. From writers and note-takers to fidgeters, this can be a handy tool to have. In fact, I fall more in the fidgeter category, and sometimes I do this or that, or maybe sometimes I put it up in my ear like that, and look, I pretend I'm a carpenter. One of the rare instances that I actually use the Apple Pencil is inside Microsoft OneNote. I take notes usually with the keyboard, and then sometimes if I'm in a technical discussion or a whiteboard discussion, I will then transcribe or draw the item next to my typed out notes. You can actually make the Apple Pencil even better with a matte screen protector. The iCare's matte screen protector provides a little more texture, a little more resistance to writing on the screen, and it's more like paper than writing on glass. I never liked the feeling of any tablet or PDA using a stylus and writing on glass or plastic or whatever the screen was made of. That transition from the physical world with a pen and paper never quite worked for me going to a digital world with glass and plastic. More important to me than pencil support, the matte screen protector also reduces glare and fingerprint smudges. I'm now able to use my iPad anywhere there's bright light, like in my living room or in my backyard, and I don't have to play angle adjustment gymnastics just to be able to see the screen. And just like installing the skin on the iPad Magic Keyboard, you just go slow, take your time, and it's really not all that difficult, just follow the instructions. Or watch my video. Now let's say you don't want an iPad Magic Keyboard for some reason, but you still want to be able to prop up the iPad to watch a movie or take a video call. That's where this USBC Tripod Adapter for iPad comes in handy. This is a tripod adapter for iPad that obviously screws onto the top of a tripod. Now that can be the Amazon 60-inch Amazon Basics tripod, or it can be a Manfrotto Pixie mini tripod, whatever you need. All you need to do is put the iPad in here, clamp this down, and that works for an iPad Pro or even an iPad mini. Turn this knob to tighten it, and you're good to go. We'll put this Manfrotto mini on the bottom here and stand it up. And then you can actually make additional adjustments on the USBC tripod adapter itself. If you loosen up this nut back here, you now have the ability to make angle adjustments to get it just perfect the way you want it. Just tighten it up when you're done and you're good to go. I've actually used this exact setup for many of virtual happy hours with friends and family over the last few months, as well as for work calls and Zoom meetings. Next up is probably the second most important accessory after the iPad Magic Keyboard: AirPods. Yes, these magical little noisemakers that look a little funny hanging out of our ears are incredibly important for how I use my iPad. I got my first pair of AirPods in 2018, and ever since, they're always in my pocket. Having a case that is this tiny, this compact, and that can fit in your pocket without feeling bulky is invaluable to me. Whether I'm sitting on the couch, standing in line, or going for a walk, the ability to just pull this out, slap these in my ears, and have a good wireless audio experience is so much more convenient than I would have imagined. I never leave the house without them. I have my phone in my left pocket, I have my keys, my wallet, and my AirPods in my right pocket, and they're just always there, always ready to go. And now, with iOS 14, audio switching between iPad and iPhone is so much faster. Like, check this out.
Needless to say, the beast was...
Yeah, right? I no longer have to go into Control Center and then click on the audio sharing icon and then tap on my AirPods when I'm moving from my phone to my tablet. It's just instant. I can just go back and forth, and I guess it's supposed to be available in macOS Big Sur as well, so that'll be awesome. So I've talked a lot on this channel about making your iPad your primary computer and different ways that you can do that, and how to get rid of apps and use more Safari just like you would on a laptop. But what about when you start to run into storage issues? For backing up my iPad or offloading off the iPad, I use the Samsung T7 SSD. This is a 1 terabyte USB 3.1 Gen 2 SSD that is incredibly fast on a computer, not so much on the iPad, but it works. Because the iPad Pro has USB-C, you're able to connect directly from this SSD to the iPad with no adapters and no external power supply is needed. Like I said, the drive is not as fast on the iPad as it is on a Mac or a PC, and I don't know exactly why that is, and it's actually going to feel really slow if you just buy this, pull it out of the box, and connect it. To make this run at its top speed for the iPad, you actually have to format this in APFS using a Mac. And if you're interested in seeing a video on that, you can check the description below. I've also used this drive when transferring large video files like the ones coming off this camera right here to my iPad for video editing. And you might ask why I don't just use AirDrop. Well, when you start getting into 10, 15, 20, 30 gigabytes for video files, that AirDrop is not always the most reliable. So in that instance, I connect this to my iPhone using the Apple USB 3 camera adapter, copy the files to this, and then USB-C from this to the iPad. And that makes the transfer go much quicker, and it's much more reliable. Now, you don't need to actually go out and spend a bunch of money on a Samsung SSD, since you're not going to be getting the top drive of the speed when connecting to the iPad anyway. So if you already have a thumb drive or an external USB drive of some kind, you can just get something like this. This is an Anker USB-C to USB-A adapter. This guy comes in handy if you're looking to copy files directly off of a camera or maybe an SD card reader, and you can even connect mice to it. I used this for testing mice with the iPad earlier this year when iOS 13.4 came out. Speaking of mice, the Apple Magic Trackpad and the Apple Magic Mouse are great accessories to go along with your iPad, even if you have the iPad Magic Keyboard. As much as I love having a built-in trackpad to go with my iPad, sometimes your arm gets a little bit tired, you just need a change of pace, or sometimes you just need something more precise for editing text. Well, that's where a mouse comes in handy. The ability to move over to the right side of the keyboard for a more ergonomic position can really save the stress on your arm. And of course, the space gray colors go perfectly with the iPad Pro and Magic Keyboard. I know a lot of people don't like the Apple Magic Mouse for one reason or another, but I like it for the inertial scrolling that it offers. It gives me the ability to just flick my finger and have it keep going, or I just keep slowly moving my finger, and it's just a much smoother scrolling experience. If you don't get all the features you want from the Apple Magic Mouse, the Apple Magic Trackpad 2 is great because it offers all of the same features as the built-in trackpad in a much larger size that you can place wherever you need for ergonomics. It swipes between apps, it goes to the home screen, and it has the same inertial scrolling as the mouse. Of course, having an external mouse and keyboard goes great with the iPad when connecting it to an external monitor. Although not the best overall experience, you can run your iPad off an external monitor by using a USB-C to HDMI adapter, like this Apple USB-C Digital AV Multiport Adapter. Yeah, I got all the words. The adapter has input for USB-C power, HDMI out, and USB-A in for hard drives or mice or whatever. With an external monitor connected, the iPad can now give you an almost desktop-like experience. Unfortunately, the screen stays on, and depending on where you have to place your iPad to connect everything up, it could be a little distracting. So now that I think about all this stuff, it's actually quite a bit, and I left a few out. Regardless, the iPad of any version is an incredible device all by itself, and you don't need any of this stuff to get a lot of use out of it. However, if you are interested in doing more with your iPad, being more creative, being more productive, you can grab a few accessories and go to town. For me, the most indispensable accessories are going to be the Magic Keyboard and AirPods. With those things and my iPad, I can get 95% of everything I do done. I can remote into work servers, I can edit videos, I can manage my home expenses, I can edit photos, I can do all my shopping from here. How much more do you need? I know, at some point you're just thinking to yourself, why not just buy a laptop? Well, that's some of the fun of having an iPad. So what accessories are you using? What am I not using that I should be? Let me know below. If you're interested in hearing more about this iPad Magic Keyboard, which I love, I have a great video about it you can check out right over here. Hit the like button if you did, hit subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time.